Good Thursday morning, everyone. And this is a very odd situation. Apparently, I'm off today, so I decided to finally give you my long awaited recent book haul. And holy crap. And that happened. So, been a minute since I've done a proper book haul, and I've required quite a few books at the back half of 2025. So all these books were from the back half of 2025. I haven't got a single book at all this year. So I decided to just show you what I got over the last couple months. Again, trying to figure out this whole YouTube scheduling thing again. And I did start my horror reading challenge. That's going swimmingly. I'm hoping to have my first vlog out by next week. But that's for another day. Right now, I'm going to show you all the books that I acquired over the past couple months. So in no particular order, I gotta get that back. So these first three slim books are actually pretty much magazines. So I got a TV Guide edition of a Supernatural 20th anniversary. And this is all about the best moments of Supernatural and an overview of the entire show. As you guys know, I absolutely love Supernatural, and this is actually a 20th anniversary edition. It ended back in 2020, and I really need to rewatch it. So about 100 pages, and it has a ton of pictures and stuff. But this is just all about Supernatural as is. So, really cool find. Up next is The Ultimate Guide to Kiss, a collector's tribute to Ace Frehley. And of course, this is pretty much all about Kiss. And of course, it deals with their tumultuous relationships and all that. But Kiss is one of my all-time favorite bands, of course. So I had to snag this. So that's that. And another one is Ozzy and Black Sabbath. Of course, this is the entire story about Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath. So as we know, Ozzy passed away last July, and it really devastated the music community, especially me. So I really want to dive into his history and see how crazy he actually is. So that's that. And those are the three magazines I got. Next up is going to be 2 books about the Missouri State Penitentiary. I went back there in October, so I had to snag these. And the next one is These Walls Still Talk by Brian Paoni. And of course, this is all about the creepy stuff that happened at Missouri State Penitentiary after it closed. So it's a really, really cool place. I've been there many, many times. So I can't wait to dive into this. The next one is Unguarded Moments, Stories of Working Inside the Missouri State Penitentiary by Larry E. Neal and Anita Neal Harrison. So this was written by the point of view of a former prison guard, and this is his story of what he went through. So it should be very, very interesting. But those are the two books I got from Missouri State Penitentiary. The next two books are by the same author, and this is an author that I have read from before, and he is an independent horror author. Got two more James Cain books. This is Devil of the Pines, American Horrors, Book 2. The first one is The Devil Children's Playground, and I read that last summer, and I really, really enjoyed it. But this is about the Jersey Devil. So I'm going to read what it says on the back. Discovered the disturbing legend that has haunted the Pine Barrens for centuries. 1735, Lades Point, New Jersey. A weary woman discovers she is pregnant with her 13th child. In a moment of despondence, she curses the unborn that it may be a devil. On the night the infant enters the world, no one in the room is left alive to recount the tale. 2005, 13-year-old Patrick Shords and his friend encounter a terrifying creature in the Pine Barrens. When only Patrick emerges from the woods alive, the residents of the small town blame and shun him. A pariah in his community, Patrick is ultimately driven away, vowing to never look back. 2025. Patrick reluctantly returns to Leeds Point after the death of his mother, seeking to lay the ghosts of his past to rest. He soon discovers they refuse to go quietly. When a string of grisly events rock the small town, old suspicions resurface, and the residents again point their fingers at the prodigal son. Patrick will learn that he can't run from the past. He'll have to confront his demons, the monster in the woods, and the darkness that dwells within. In these woods, legends become nightmares. So yeah, a little bit longer than what he writes, but if it's about the Jersey Devil, I'm definitely there for it. So that is The Devil of the Pines, or Devil of the Pines. This next one, lot shorter, and this is Mischief Night. This is a Halloween slasher. This clocks in at approximately 128 pages. So, of course, I got this like pretty much when it came out, and I just wanted to try and read it for Halloween, but I never got around to it. But eventually, it'll definitely happen. But that is Mischief Night by James Cain. And speaking of Ozzy Osbourne, I got Ozzy Osbourne Last Rites. And this is all about his final moments of life and what he really went through. So it's going to be a very heavy read, and it's going to be one of my it's definitely going to be one of the books that I want to get to before the end of the year, because I haven't read a good autobiography in a while, but I'm hoping to get to it before the end of the year. But that is Last Rites by Ozzy Osbourne. Next are two books by the same author, and I got The Popelick Massacre and Silly Rabbits by Eric Butler. And I have read the Rest Stop duology by him. Funny story about Rest Stop 2. I actually had a physical copy of it, but I decided to basically throw it out the window, but that wasn't my intention. So I just literally had the window down while we were going to Branson, and it just flew right out of my hands. So I don't have a physical copy of that anymore, but that was going to be part of this book haul. But I'll just put a graphic up here. But I thought that was a really silly story. But anyway, these two. So the Poplick Massacre is, I'm going to read the back. I really don't remember what I have in this haul because it's been a while. So let's try this again. The Poplick Massacre. This legend is real and hungry for blood. There are two types of people in Jefferson County, those who know the legend of the Poplick monster and those who believe it. Before the night is over, Sam will have no choice but to join the believers. Since their mother's death, Sam's sole focus has been taking care of her younger brother, Kenny. Now, Kenny's scout troop is missing, having never returned from the woods around Pope Lick. Sam gathers a group of friends to search for the boys and their scoutmaster. With each step, they get closer to discovering the scouts aren't the only ones in the woods this night. So kind of vague on what it's about, but apparently it's about like some monster just hunting down a Boy Scout troop. So the Poplick Massacre. And the sequel, Silly Rabbits. So basically it's a half man, half goat, and he has an axe to grind. But that is the sequel, Silly Rabbits. Okay, I'm back. Stupid phone's been ringing off the hook like no other. But anyway, next up is Music to Sacrifice Virgins to by Christopher Triana. And I do have it signed. So this was his most recent book that he put out, like, I want to say around like last fall. And this one is very different from what he writes. This focuses on black metal. So I'm going to read the back of it. Down on his luck and moving back in with his mother, Asher Benton receives a deathbed letter from an estranged relative. Uncle Rex is leaving his most prized possessions to his nephew, a collection of heavy metal records and a vintage stereo. In need of money, Asher plans to sell them, but is quickly drawn in by a mysterious album named Music to Sacrifice Virgins to. The album is forged of black magic, and the more Asher listens to it, the closer he comes to being a satanic warlock. By embracing the evil, he gains all that he desires: money, women, influence, and power. He forms a death cult to do the devil's bidding, and soon starts to wonder if Uncle Rex truly is dead. Perhaps he is closer than Asher ever imagined. So, this one sounds wild. It is quite a chunky book, but I definitely am making my way through Christopher Triana, as is. So, that is Music to Sacrifice Virgins to. And I did recently finish Toxic Love, so once you see my vlog, you'll know my thoughts on that book. But moving right along, I have one of two gigantic books. King Sorrow by Joe Hill. And I actually went to an author event last October when he released this, and it was a pretty fun night. But this is basically fantasy horror, and it's kind of like a coming of age story about this group of college students who just encounter a dragon. So that's all I really know about it. Other than that, I really don't know much about this book. But it's been a long, long time since I went to that author event. But it was a really, really cool night. But look how giant this thing is. But that is King Sorrow by Joe Hill. Eventually I'll get to it. Here's another book I completely forgot that I owned. This is Acquired Taste by Clay McLeod Chapman. And this is just a collection of short stories. So this collects 26 short stories. And it's not that thick, thank God. So I don't know anything about any of these short stories, but I did read Wake Up and Open Your Eyes early last year, and I really did enjoy it. So if you want to see that vlog, I will have it linked. But this is Acquired Taste by Clay McLeod Chapman. Next is another short story collection. This is White Trash and Recycled Nightmares by Rebecca Rowland. So this collects 20 stories. So basically it's about like Southern Gothic mixed with like hillbillies and stuff. Sounds very interesting, and I really do want to get back into short stories. So those are the two short story collections I got. This next one is Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. And having just read Toxic Love, this book is going to remind me of Toxic Love. So this one is extreme horror, and I just happened to find it at Barnes & Noble one day. But this is about a guy who falls in love with like a nurse, and they do like unspeakable things to each other. So I'm very interested, yet scared to read this thing, because this thing gets very gross. But that is Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. And to wrap this whole video up, I do have one more massive short story collection. And that is The End of the World as We Know It. New Tales of Stephen King's The Stand. And this has plenty of emerging authors just rewriting the world of The Stand. This has authors such as, I'm going to just go ahead and read them off. Caroline Kepnes, Rath James White, Meg Gardner, Brian Smith, Bev Vincent, Joe R. Lansdale, Jonathan Jans, Gabino Iglesias, C. Robert Cargill, Haley Piper, Tim Leben, Moving Day, Alex Segura, Catriona Ward, Poppy Z. Bright, Michael Corita, Alma Katsu. That's the first part. Josh Mallerman, Cynthia Paleo, S.A. Cosby, Rio Yours, V. Castro, Tanner Dew and Stephen Barnes, Paul Tremblay, Usman T. Malik, Wayne Brady, and Maurice Broadus. And I think it is that Wayne Brady. That is in part 2. Ronald Malfi, Summer Cannon, Chuck Wendig, Premi Muhammad, Catherine M. Valente, Sarah Langan, Nat Cassidy, David J. Shaw, and the afterword is by Brian Keene. So, when I went to AuthorCon back in October 2024, they were really hyping this up. But I did not stay for that panel, unfortunately, because I had to leave. But there were a ton of authors there that are part of this series of short stories. Ralph James White was there, Ronald Malfi was there, Brian Keene was there. Jonathan Jans was there. And I believe that was everybody there for that. But anyway, this collects quite a few stories. I just gave you like the authors that were a part of this. I did not give you any of the names of the stories. So it's quite a bit. I guess I should have like read that, shouldn't I have? But that's the end of this book haul. And like I said, very soon I will definitely have my first vlog out for the Summer Horror Reading Challenge. And I plan on seeing Obsession a day. So I'll definitely film a movie review for that. But other than that, look out for more videos very shortly. Got a lot of work to do. But I will see you in the next one. Adios. Peace. And if you like this sort of content, like, comment, subscribe. Bye.